the board of the HOA is composed of people from all walks of life, all levels of education. And I think I bring that. I think I bring just a level of common sense also. Everything about me, I think, prepares me for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Ashton T Nielsen.
I work in HR, and that can be a pretty tough field. You have a lot of different perspectives, and as such, you really have to act as a mediator. You hear everyone, you listen to everyone, you have to be unbiased. And I think part of that is really what our HOA should be doing, is hearing everything, because we have a community. Everyone's going to have different perspectives, and everyone wants to have that voice. So right away, with that background, I feel like I'm well equipped to be able to listen to that and to have active conversations and dialogues with people so they feel heard and listened to and acted upon as a result of that. So there's a mediation component. I grew up in a household where we were always renovating homes. I have renovated multiple homes. Construction is, actually, if you live in my neighborhood, I've lived in construction. My house, as you heard, has been under construction for quite some time. But, as a result, I think it has really helped connect me with my neighbors and my community. Right when I moved in, I had to talk to them and say, I hope you can bear with me because we want to make a lot of changes. But I'll tell you, they turned to me and they said, oh my gosh, we're just so happy we don't have the music anymore. We don't have the college students around us, So I'm used to construction and I'm used to development, but I'm also used to respecting the community around me and also beautifying it. We all want the same thing. I want to live in a safe community where I like my neighbors, where I can go and have a nice chat, but also where I'm proud of my home. And I feel like it's a beautiful place that I want to come home to every day. And I think that's something that we can build together as a community. And that's something that I want to work with our residents to be able to achieve. So hopefully with that in mind, we can collaborate together and find a way to make this a place that we all want to live.
Thank you. Next, the same question, Ms. Johnson.
Well, I think my experience, what I bring to the table, many years in management, in the last 15 in HR. And as Taylor said, in HR, you have to deal with a lot of different situations, a lot of different people. And you really have to listen to understand what someone's saying and what their situation is. It's not just black and white, right? There's always a gray area, and you always have to try and find a medium and find a win-win situation. So I think that my experience in managing for 15 years, a company that had 5,000 people, managing their HR, labor relations, employee relations, and contract negotiations, and dealing with the union and making sure that we took care of the people. And as one of the other candidates said, the people in San Lorenzo, we are San Lorenzo, the people, and not just the board. So the board has to be an extension of that. So it's very important to listen. And one of the things that I hear sometimes from people when I talk to them is that they don't feel like they're being heard. And, I've always been taught if you have to tell somebody no, they should walk away and say, well, thank you. I understand you. You heard me, I heard you, but thank you for taking the time and listening. Also, when I did leave corporate, I started my own real estate investment company. So I've been doing real estate development for the last 10 years, where I've been buying homes. Most of the time they've had to be gutted and down to the studs. And so I understand what goes into that. I also don't believe that, I feel strongly that we cannot go back to 1950 because we have to evolve as a people, we have to evolve as a neighborhood, and everybody has to feel a part. And I think my experience in making people feel a part is something that I bring to the table.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, Ms. Ashton Nielsen, you'll be first. Board members must have a deep, long time overall commitment instead of a narrow personal agenda. What are several items that you believe are important to address with the perspective of a long-time commitment?
Sure. Well, I think buying a house in general is typically a long-time commitment. That's the largest purchase that most people ever make in their lives. So that alone already is me, and I think many others, saying, I'm committing to my home, I'm committing to my community. It is an extension that is one and the same in my eyes. What matters to me during this time period is, what I mentioned earlier. It is, and it's what the HOA is really designed for. I want to be able to increase my property value. I want to be able to connect with my neighbors. I want to be able to have a safe environment that I look forward to coming home to every day. Those are all things that really are intertwined. And I think that's where an HOA can be valuable. We're connected with our neighborhood. We want to be able to all reach those goals together. So I think that you can't really have one without the other. And that's what I want to work together with, is to be able to connect with my neighbors and make sure that, we all feel we're going in the same direction. That's why we have an HOA. So at the end of the day, I guess I'll just repeat that I want to be able to preserve our property value, respect our neighbors, and maintain our community.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Can you repeat the question for me, Jill, please?
Sure. Board members must have a long, deep, overall time commitment instead of a narrow personal agenda. What are several items that you believe are important to address with the perspective of a long-term commitment?
Couple of items. Well, first of all, let's start off with that. I've chosen this community to retire in. So I have a long-term commitment and I have no plans to go anywhere. And like I said, after being here for 17 years and just observing and seeing how things have changed, how people's attitudes have changed towards the homeowners association, I want to make sure that in the long run that people are feeling a part of it, and rather than circulating a petition to get rid of our homeowners association, I want them to embrace the homeowners association and for us to lift them up and strengthen the community and help them beautify their home if that's what that's what they're looking to do. Help them create more value in their home in the long run, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer.
Unmute. All right. So in the short term and the long term, the two primary goals of the HOA should be to enhance our living environment in our neighborhood, our quality of life, and number two, to help upkeep our property values. And I do have a couple of specifics that my own neighbors gave to me when I asked people, hey, what is important to you? What would you like to see the HOA do? And the specifics are, for example, they'd like to see the HOA help the county develop a better business district along Hesperian Boulevard. Now, we know that the HOA doesn't have much directly to do over the development of the business district, such as helping the San Lorenzo Theater move along. But people in the neighborhood felt like they'd like to see the HOA itself and the board of directors do more to nudge and make a stronger voice to Alameda County for that. For example, we have something like, it's called the House of the Month on the monthly newsletter. What about a business of the month? I know on Facebook, there was a business that recently owned right by, is it Classic Burger? And so what if somebody opens a new business on Hesperian Boulevard, let's feature them as the business of the month. That's just one example. Another thing that people brought up, again, putting pressure on the county on things like that droopy PG&E Park at Washington and Grant Avenues, specifics like that. Addressing the worrisome trend of the HOA inserting itself on real estate deals. So these are specific issues that I would like to address head on.
Thank you. The next question will go to Ms. Johnson. Why do you believe that you're currently the best qualified person to serve on the board of directors?
I think that I am the most qualified person for my years of experience working with people across the aisle, all types of people, all ages, having to find a happy medium that works so that, like I said, it's a win-win. Knowing that I can provide the guidance and support and having the open mind that's needed to move this community forward. And at the same time, where we need to toe the line for what's needed, I'm very capable and willing and understanding that that has to happen also. But overall, I just feel like I'm an even-keeled person. I have tons of experience. I've had to be a mediator, a negotiator, an arbitrator in a lot of different forums. And a lot of times that's what you're doing. And when you're on a homeowners association board, that's what you're doing. You're acting as a mediator. You're not just dictating what happens. Like I said, you want people to walk away and say, thank you. I understand why you made the decision that you had to make. And at the same time, I believe that everything is on a case-by-case basis and that you have to approach it that way. Even though you have rules, there's no tougher rules than a collective bargaining agreement. And to have 5,000 people that you have to make sure they are adhering to that. And I've had to do that for many years. And I'm very comfortable with doing that. And that's why one of the reasons I think I'm the best.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer?
Well, honestly, I think the question is, are you all going to go and vote? Because we've got 2 open seats. And as you can see already tonight, you've got 3 great ladies running. So honestly, it does not matter who of us 3 you put 2 of us on. You're going to get 2 great people. Because I think you're hearing a common trend, a common thread from all 3 of us. And that thread is, I don't think that you, the community, feel like your wishes and your voices are being heard. There are a number of ways for an HOA board to interpret CC&Rs. And I get the sense from you neighbors and you, the community, that you don't feel like the way the board is interpreting the CC&Rs now is necessarily reflective of how you would like to see them interpreted. So again, the real question is, are you going to turn those ballots in? Because honestly, it doesn't have to be me and Taylor, or it doesn't have to be me and Debra Johnson, or it doesn't have to be Ms. Johnson and Ms. Aston-Nielsen. It can be any of us 3. You're going to get 2 great people. And because all 3 of us, I think, have been drawn here tonight, again, because we want an HOA board that is truly reflective of the wants and desires of the current HOA. The word interpretation, I just don't think we can stress that word enough. I've read through the CC&Rs. There are a number of ways you can go with them. And remember, they were written in 1951, and from what I can tell, they were most recently updated in 1991 or maybe 1994. It's 2021, thank goodness. Let's move forward and vote for any of us, honestly, just vote.
Thank you. Ms. Ashton T Nielsen, the same question.
Well, it's kind of hard to follow these lovely ladies because I 100% agree. And I have to say I'm so refreshed because I didn't get the opportunity to necessarily talk with everyone before this. But I really agree that I think we're all here for the same reasons. And hopefully these are ones that you all support. So I don't think you can make a bad decision, just get out and vote. It matters. But that said, what I'm looking for personally is I want to be able to go to a town hall that I'm excited about. I want to be able to connect with my community and say, yes, can't wait to get there, and be heard and acknowledged and treated with respect and kindness, because my opinion matters just like anyone else's does. That's what I'm ideally looking for. And that's what I want to bring. And I think that actually any of my counterparts would agree that that's what they're looking for too. Not speaking for you, of course, but we want to live in a great place. And at the end of the day, I'm invested in you, every individual there. I have my stubborn streak, but honestly, as it comes probably from my HR background, if I care about people's rights, and I want to fight for you guys. I want to make sure that you're heard and that things that matter to you are actually advocated for and considered. So, you know, we all have different perspectives, I think, at the end of the day, but we should be able to come together in a common ground, a safe space, and to be able to really come together for what matters to us. So I'm going to reiterate kind of what Kris and Debra both said. Get out and vote. I don't think you can make a bad decision, but let us help, you know, share your voice, as it were.
Thank you. I want to compliment our timer, John. You're right on it. Thank you so much. So our next question will start with Ms. Palmer, and this is a question from the chat. And the community is asking, what experience have you had with our current HOA?
Well, let's see, I've Zoomed in on 4 meetings now. Let's see. First of all, I truly, honestly, and I think I said at the time, I honestly commend Kathy Reedy. She went after, there's a massage parlor right along Hesperian Boulevard, and they've got it all closed up and everything. And she went after and said, you know what? You're not allowed to have your curtains covering your windows like that. That's the kind of stuff we want. That was great. But again, what I think I've already said tonight is what I don't like is I don't like the current HOA board's approach to the CC&Rs, using the CC&Rs to try to turn San Lorenzo Village back to what it looked like exactly in 1951. I just don't agree with that approach. I think there's a lot of interpretation that can be done in the CC&Rs, and I would prefer a different approach. Another facet of my experience with the HOA board is I have found the meetings to be very polite and very well run, very professional, very polite, very well run. But again, I just disagree with some of the decisions about approaches to, for example, front yard policy, the classic village look. And I'm hearing from my fellow neighbors that I'm not alone in that. But that's been my experience with the HOA. It's been professional, polite, but I just disagree with the approach on some specific things. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Miss Ashton Nielsen.
I have been to the virtual town halls, and I will admit my house has been fined on many occasions. As a result, I've gone through the hearing process with the HOA, and I'm going to take a step back and just think that there are a lot of different opinions out there, and there are a lot of different people that are approaching it from different dynamics. So how that works, you know, I'm going to say that everyone is coming from the best place. Personally, I didn't feel heard. And that was upsetting to me. I felt like the HOA was working against me. I still do. And that's unfortunate. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm not trying to be unkind to anyone, because I don't think that's the intention. I really don't. And I think there were some people that did try and advocate in those situations. But I just think it was unfortunate that we're supposed to be a collaborative community that is working together for a common good, a common goal, which is our own homes and our own community and development. And to have a new resident feel that way was disheartening, and actually it was really a spur to arms to me that I want to get involved so that, yeah, maybe I can feel that hardship that they feel, because I know it's a tough role to have, you know, but also, so maybe I can help people feel like they have someone on their side, because I don't think that was the intention, but unfortunately, that was what I have had so far. And I sincerely hope it will change and that we can have a different interaction in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, the same question.
Well, my experience with the board, I've had good experiences. I've gotten on some of the calls and I see where other people have not had good experiences. And I see where people feel like, as some of the other ladies have expressed, they don't feel like they're being heard. And I keep mentioning listening because I think everybody has a voice and everyone should be heard. And I feel at times people feel like they have not been heard. Doesn't mean that they're right with what they're having to say, but at least they need to be heard. So that's one thing. One of the other things that I don't like is this taking it back, trying to take the village back to where it was. And so people who bought their homes and they bought them with certain things on there, and when they try to make a certain change, I think that it's almost as if it's a punitive response for them to do this, to do that. And I don't think that's always fair. Sometimes if it's connected, I can see it, but sometimes I see a total disconnect. And, but I also know that they have a hard job. It can be a thankless job, and they're probably getting bombarded with different things, but it is the job and it's the one you signed up for. So you have to, you just have to have a certain non-combative approach and attitude when dealing with your homeowners. That's just how I feel about it. But like I said, overall, I love my homeowners association, and I appreciate everybody that's on the board because, like I said, it's a thankless job and nobody's getting paid. So.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Ms. Ashton Nielsen. Please share your view on the appropriate ways Alameda County should interface with the San Lorenzo Village Home Association.
I think that it could be applied the same way how the HOA should interact with its homeowners, how Alameda County should interact with the HOA. It's all about collaboration at the end of the day. We're looking to make our homes better, which in turn will make our community better, which should make Alameda County better. And so ideally, I think that should be a collaborative process where we're talking with one another. If that doesn't happen, then maybe we need to advocate a little bit harder. I know sometimes one party might talk more than the other. You might be knocking on doors and getting silence. So, because I've been to the town halls, and I know that our HOA members are trying to really keep our county accountable for what it is doing. So I think that, perseverance is really important, and, making sure that we continue to collaborate and to communicate with one another so that we are continuing to better the whole community.
Hey, thank you. Ms. Johnson, same question. You're muted, so come back to us.
You guys have seen that commercial, right? Where this guy goes through the whole thing and he's muted the whole time. That's how I felt just then. But in any event, I think that I've spent a lot of time working with Alameda County on different things, counties and cities. And it's really about building relationships with them. Everything's a relationships, right? And for them to understand, I think that they have to understand that the homeowners association, the board, is a strong entity, that we are going to collaborate with you. And these are things that we like to see. So I think that we just have to be very vocal with them, and be a part of what they're doing. Let them be a part of what we're doing, but understanding that this is our community within their county. And the rules and some things are different, but at the same time, it has to be somewhat of a collaboration. But at all times, I think that we have to be in charge.
Thank you. Paul, same question.
Can you repeat that question? I didn't really understand the question, actually.
Sure. Okay, please share your view on the appropriate ways Alameda County should interface with the San Lorenzo Village Home Association.
Well, to a certain extent, I already see that happening. At every HOA meeting, a representative from Wilma Chan's office has been there, Jared. It's been very informative. But as I said earlier, a lot of the residents here in San Lorenzo Village, they don't feel like they would like the HOA. I think they would like to see the HOA board put more pressure on the county regarding, again, the two main projects that are going on right now, the Hesperian beautification and the San Lorenzo Theater. It may be that the board currently is putting a lot of pressure on it. Just right now, the community doesn't have that sense that that's happening. But quite honestly, when I was at the meetings, I was honestly very impressed with how the board president and the board vice president interacted with Jared, the representative from Wilma Chan's office. So I quite honestly, I like what I see. That's not an issue that I would like to, that I have a problem with. There are other issues, as I said, that brought me here tonight. But the community does feel like they would like to see the board put more pressure on the county for the two main beautifications that are going on. Otherwise, again, more kudos to Michelle Clauser for interacting with the Alameda County Sheriffs on the programs for children that she's been doing. Interacting with the fire department on programs for children that she's been doing. So I would honestly say, I would look forward to learning from them on the way that they interact with the county, because honestly, in many ways, I like what I see from the current board about how they're interacting with the county.
Thank you. Okay, our next question will go to Ms. Johnson. The question is, what specifically
Joe, I think you're frozen.
Frozen. Okay, we'll try again. Did you hear me?
No, I can hear you now.
Okay, Ms. Johnson, what specifically about the current HOA would you most want to change? Uh-oh.
I'm here. I'm just thinking.
You're there.
That's just the wheels turning. I think what I would want to change the most is that they make people, I want them to make people feel heard. Right? So your question, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? Make sure I got it right.
What specifically about the current HOA would you most to change?
So when you say the current HOA, I have to, well, okay, I can't ask you the question because you didn't pose the question. But
I did not pose the
okay,
question.
So there's some things on the board I would like to see change. I want people to be more inclusive, and feel a part. I say that. As far as the HOA as a whole, I want us to feel more like a large community. Like both of these ladies have said, I want everyone to feel a part and be a part. And that's what I would like to see change. And I would also like to see us move forward as times have changed. And sometimes I think we're stuck. I think that the HOA is stuck. And I think that we need to move forward because times have changed. And our community has changed a lot. And we can't, we're not going to stay back in the good old days. Things just have to move forward.
Thank you. And then it would be Ms. Palmer. This is your question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No.
Okay.
First, let's do away with the outdated and artificial 1950s classic village look. I don't want that requirement for our homes' exteriors. As homeowners, we should have the right to choose our own architectural exterior decor, the aesthetics. Let's have the HOA continue to monitor structural changes. Yes, structural changes such as square footage enlargements or second story additions, absolutely. But let's allow ourselves the freedom to choose whether or not, do I want to add shutters? No, I don't want to add shutters. Or what kind of front door style? Okay, let's remove these unnecessary restrictions on exterior style choices, and let's allow our own modernized aesthetics to come through, okay? Second, I would like, again, just a neat and clean requirement for the front yard. I would favor not having to fill out an architectural alteration application just for shrubbery. Let's abandon this required application just to plant flowers. Let's have the HOA focus on those perennially derelict front yards, because as it is now, by requiring us to fill out an application for every little thing, it is penalizing those of us who are making updates and changes to our properties. And instead it rewards a homeowner who just sits back and chooses to do nothing. It's backwards. Finally, the third most important is there is a very worrisome trend of the HOA intersecting it, that's not the right word, injecting itself right in the middle of an active property sale going on. I've heard from multiple agents say that a house will go on the market, will go on escrow, actually go into escrow. And the sellers had no idea they had violations on their property. And only right during the middle of the contract, then the HOA comes in and says, oh, boop, you've got these violations. And I think my time is
okay.
up.
I think that Joe may be frozen. Shall I proceed?
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I
no
apologize.
Worries. Didn't want to cut you off.
So we'll start, make sure we're on the same question. What specifically about the current HOA would you most want to change?
I believe that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and everyone sees something a little differently. One thing that is beautiful to me may not be what is beautiful to my neighbor. And part of that is cultural diversity. We bring our different backgrounds and our history to our homes. And that is something that really makes our community wonderful. The different languages that I hear spoken around me, the different families that are, I see people who are third, fourth generation, in our community. And I think that's something that's terrific. But I also don't think that we should be maintaining historic preservation. We were not approved for historic preservation. Now, if we are, then that's wonderful. But I think that we need to look to the future, which can be incredibly respectful of the past. And there is a way to naturally transition that. I mean, I don't think anyone wants a 4-story home right next to them. We can all agree. But we should be able to improve our home, and people should know what they're buying when they buy the home and not regret it after the fact. If you look at our fine structure for the fees, I know it. It is painful, very, very painful. And it's upsetting because at the end of the day, I want an HOA that's collaborative. And I'm not saying that I'm just talking from my own experiences, but I would love to see the HOA work with the homeowners to create the homes that they and the community want. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay, the next question goes to Ms. Palmer first. There's a large time commitment required of each board member in addition to assessing a code of conduct. Do you have any concerns about necessary time to serve or reservation about signing?
Well, I think you're breaking up a bit, but I heard something about large time commitment and a code of conduct. I think I'll be fine with both. Having a child is a large time commitment. Having a disabled child is a large. Pardon me?
There it is. Let's just start the question over again. I apologize. I'm going to go downstairs and yell at my children. Okay. Everyone their pads or their whatever, and I apologize. The large commitment required each member in addition to the really necessity.
Hey, Joe. I was going to say, am I clear?
Now you're clear.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think the question is, there's a large time commitment required of each board member in addition to the necessity in signing a code of conduct. Do you have any concerns about having the necessary time to serve or reservations about signing the code of conduct?
No, I have no reservations about either one. So first of all, for the time commitment, if we do away with the architectural application for every little change that we do in our front yard, that will help streamline the process. This is an HOA that thankfully is running only on a $125 commitment from each property owner here annually from us. That's a good thing. So let's keep it low budget. Let's streamline it. Let's keep it simple. Let's focus on the important things. Let's focus on, is my neighbor trying to build a 2-story next to me? Instead of, is my neighbor going to plant a rose in his front yard? We can make the time commitment what it is on our own. Let's focus on the important things. I would want to join the HOA Board of Directors, not simply to join in on how things are being done right now. I want to join to affect change to how things are done. And I kind of take issue with that question because we want more people from the community to join us in the daunting task of running for the HOA board here. I don't want the rest of my neighbors being frightened away from that, oh my gosh, big time commitment, because that's what we heard a lot of. Many of us neighbors wanted to run. Many of us neighbors have issues with these, with the concepts that we've raised tonight. But so many people said, oh my gosh, the time commitment. I'm not running because I have a lot of time either, but I'm going to take this on. I'm going to address the issues that I want to see changed, but I will be there. And a code of conduct, it's always a good thing. We should all abide by. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I apologize. I went and yelled at all my children, and my husband says it's our internet. It's not my kids, so I apologize. So we're on the same question. Would you like me to repeat it for you, Aston Nielsen?
No, I'm all right. Thank you. Well, I mentioned earlier that I felt a call to arms to run for our board. And I would say that when something is important to you, for whatever reason that may be, for me, it is my home that I want to make my lifetime home. It is my community around me. It is my neighbors. This is my call to arms. I don't think that is something that has much relevance to time, because when you're passionate about something, when something matters to you, you make it a priority. And I do think that what Kris was saying as well is equally valid, that if we all chip in a little bit, there will be far less work for everyone involved. And the other thing too, is I feel like if people are listened to, this is going back to my HR, okay? But if people are listened to and acknowledged and appreciated, it's like all of a sudden, I don't feel like I have problems because, oh, they were heard, they were acknowledged, they felt engaged. And so I think that, getting people in, more people in that have that interaction and help people be heard and listened to and cared about, that's going to be meaningful because it's going to engage them and it's going to want them to participate. Why don't we have an HOA party? Like that could be cool. I mean, I might be exaggerating right now, but we could get there. So as it relates to time, I'm not worried about it. I'm committed. And as it relates to a code of conduct, I write them. So I'm familiar with them and perfectly comfortable with that too.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Very simple question. I have no problem with the time commitment. I understand what's necessary. And also code of conduct. I have no problem with that.
Okay. This is our last question before closing statements. And Ms. Aston Nielsen, you go first. Please describe what the San Lorenzo Village means to you.
I think the San Lorenzo Village means a dream. And what I mean by that is I think back to the history of what San Lorenzo was. It was people looking for a home. It was a development, and that grew from people just looking for fish, the orange grove or the fruit groves that were here, and then to developing their homes and their businesses. And that's actually one area that I think is really true and can resonate from a historic standpoint. Is it's hardworking people looking to invest in their homes and their communities and to find a better life and a better way for themselves, whatever that may be. It's a different path for each of us, but it's embracing that dream and helping each one find it. So that to me is what San Lorenzo is. And I think that's how the HOA can really help support our members, listen to them. How do we help you? How do you help us? Because it really is that natural synergy that we should be embracing.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
San Lorenzo means to me the place where I've made the decision as to where this is where I want to retire. This is where I want to spend the last years that I have living here in San Lorenzo. This is where I want my grandchildren, when they come over, to have fond memories of the neighborhood where Gammy lives. To me, it's community, and that's what I want. That's why I'm joining the board, to get that feel. So that's what San Lorenzo means to me. This is my home.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer.
You know, I think I'm going to answer this question by sharing with everybody, you know, how I ended up here. I lived in Castro Valley for 10 years, and since graduating high school, that was the longest address I'd had. So it had such a strong pull. And we left Castro Valley only because it was on a hill, and my son's disabilities were such that he physically could not get around the house anymore. 4 years in Pleasanton ended in a bitter divorce. And my son and I, we decided to try to leave California completely. And we ended up in Washington State for 4 months before I realized that it was not going to work. And I thought, where do I go? What feels like home? And you know what felt like home was this greater unincorporated area of Alameda County, Castro Valley, San Lorenzo, San Leandro, Ashland, Cherryland. And I said, I want to go back home to there. And I knew that with his physical disabilities, that probably Castro Valley would not work. And the whole time we lived in Castro Valley, I would drive William here to San Lorenzo to Bay Elementary School for CCS. It's physical therapy for disabled kids. And I would drive through San Lorenzo for 10 years of physical therapy. And every time I drive through every week, I think, wow, this place looks really cool. And so when it was time to decide, where are William and I going to live now that we're on our own? And I called up my realtor and I said, Ontario, San Lorenzo. And we came here, found a house in one weekend, and this is our forever home. This is where my son is going to stay and live with his caretakers long after I'm gone. That's what San Lorenzo is to me.
Thank you. So we'll now move to closing statements, and we will change the positioning. So Ms. Aston Nielsen, you'll go first, then Ms. Palmer, then Ms. Johnson. You have 1 minute.
As board candidate, I'd like to see homeowners have more opportunities to be involved in the growth and development of their homes and community. Each homeowner is going to have slightly different priorities, but at the end of the day, we are each here for the same purpose: to preserve our property value, be respectful of our neighbors, and maintain a community we all want to call home. This is what matters to me, and something that, as a board candidate, I want others to equally be able to invest in. I'll repeat what I said earlier. This is our village. Everyone should have a voice.
Thank you. Ms. Palmer?
I just want us to all remind ourselves that the HOA is us neighbors, the community. The board represents the HOA. So I want the board to reflect our wishes and our desires for how we're going to interpret the CC&Rs. And I'm just going to reiterate the specific issues that brought me here tonight into this race. Simplifying the front yard policy so that it does not require an architectural application for your landscape in your front yard. Doing away with the endeavor of the 1950s classic village look, because let's face it, for so many reasons, many of us have no desire to go back to the 1950s. Third, really addressing head-on the issue of how the HOA is affecting property sales here in the village. these are the specifics that I want to help make a better San Lorenzo with. Thanks.
Thank you. And Ms. Johnson, your closing statement.
First of all, I want to say that it is an honor to be running with both of you ladies. And as someone said earlier, doesn't matter who wins, because I feel the HOA will win here. And I am here for the same reason that we've all expressed, is that we want to see our community move forward. We want to see our community feel like a community, feel inclusive. And I really want to get out there and walk the pavement, knock on doors, and let people know, hey, look, this is your community. What would you like to see? We'd like to see you. We want you to be a part of it. And I want to get away from some of the old things. Like Kris said, we're not going backwards. We have no desire to go backwards. We must move forward, but we have to move forward in a respectful way where we're maintaining and increasing the value of our homes, but we're building a community where I can bring my grandkids and they have a good time at Gammy's house.
Thank you. So we know some of you have not had your particular questions addressed. The screener combined similar questions of general interest to the audience, and we hope that you will contact the candidates directly for additional information. I want to thank you, the candidates, for participating this evening. I want to thank the audience for taking the time to become an educated voter. We also had volunteers from the League of Women Voters Eden area participating. I want to thank John very much for giving us your time. And I think we all owe a big vote of thank you to Linda Fenton Foster for the time that she put in on the technical support and this event. We welcome any of you to join us in empowering voters and defending democracy. Good evening and best wishes to all three candidates. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.